Hello, Edinburgh. It is such an honor to join you, even virtually. I am truly bummed to be missing this. But thank you so much for the privilege of being able to join the conversation today. What an honor. My name is Komal, and before I dive in, I'd love to see a quick show of hands. How many of you have attended a conference, a wedding, had a lunch at your cafeteria, and wondered what happens to all of this excess food? Does it magically disappear? Does the bride end up taking it home? Unfortunately, in most cases, that perfectly edible food ends up in the trash. And so I'm here to share how my team and I are changing that reality. And in doing so, dramatically reducing waste while solving one of the world's dumbest problems: hunger. And truth be told, I wasn't even supposed to be here. As the daughter of South Asian parents, I had four very distinct career options laid out for me from an early age: doctor, lawyer, engineer, or complete failure. While I always wanted to be a Bollywood actress. As you will come to find, I ended up doing something far more realistic: solving world hunger. And this journey began for me when I was a student at Berkeley and I was walking down Telegraph Avenue when I encountered a homeless man who was begging for food. And something about him compelled me to stop and invite him to join me for lunch. And during lunch, he sat across from me, just scarfing down his food. So he was unbelievably hungry. It wasn't a ploy for anything else. And in between bites, he shared a story. He said, "My name is John. I just came back from my second tour in Iraq. I've been waiting weeks for my military benefits to kick in. And because they haven't, I haven't eaten in 3 days." This really hit home for me. I mean, this is a veteran, someone who'd given the most selfless sacrifice for our country, only to come home to face yet another battle: that of hunger and even of homelessness. And then adding insult to injury, right across the street, Berkeley's dining hall is throwing away thousands of pounds of perfectly edible food. Growing up, I'm sure like many of you, my father reminded me, Komal, don't throw away your food. People are starving in Pakistan. Eat all of it." Though well intentioned and true, what I realized after my lunch with John was that people are hungry. They go without food, not just in the poorest nations in the world, but also in some of the wealthiest. In Silicon Valley, where I'm based, one of the wealthiest places, not just in our country, but on the planet, 1 in 4 don't know where their next meal is coming from. While over 365 million pounds of perfectly edible food are wasted. And to put your mind and wrap your mind around that figure, I mean, imagine the world's largest football stadium filled from top to bottom, not with last night's pad thai or this morning's half-eaten croissant, but untouched, unopened, amazing food. That's how much food goes wasted every single day in America. So clearly, it's not a lack of food that's the issue. It's just an ineffective distribution of that food. Hunger is not a scarcity problem, it's a logistics problem. And that's the logistics problem we went off to solve. And, I started by marching up to our dining hall manager and I asked them, what do they do with their excess food? They said, well, we try not to have any. I said, well, how often does that work out for you? And after a lot of pushing and prodding, they finally admitted that they do have excess food. They have to throw it away. And so I said, well, why would you throw it away when you go right across the street to people in People's Park and donate it? They said, because of liability, we don't do that. And I said, yeah, homeless people's high-powered attorneys are standing by just to sue you. I mean, it was a ridiculous excuse. You're going to sell this food to us 10 minutes ago. So 10 minutes ago was good enough for us to eat. Now 10 minutes later, it's not good enough to feed people who are actually in need. Like, where's the logic? And I wasn't going to accept this as an answer. So I did my own research. And I discovered that in 1996, Congress passed what is called the Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Act. And it protects all donors, regardless of whether you're a corporation, organization, or individual, from any liability. And get this, in the last 22 years, the number of lawsuits or legal claims that have been filed against any business or individual has been 0. But every one of them has like a second cousin twice from his uncle's hotel that shut down because they donated food. When in fact, that never happened. Anyway, so I print all this out. I took it to the executive director of our dining hall and I said, I want to start this donation program. This is the right thing to do. Here's all the protection. And I can be pretty persistent when I need to be. So In less than 10 minutes, he agreed, and we went off to start one of the nation's first food recovery organizations on a college campus, which was essentially students picking up food from our dining halls, our on campus events, our stadium, our arena, and then redistributing it directly to the community. Great start. Hugely inefficient. One day I'm sitting in class and our dining hall manager calls and he's like, "Hey, Komal, no one came to this event, so we have 500 gourmet sandwiches left over. They need to be picked up in 2 hours, otherwise we're going to have to throw them away because we need the fridge space. So do you want them?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want them." It's like, "Great, come get it." Mind you, I'm still sitting in class. So I grab my bag, I dash across campus, I jump into a zip car, go through all these one-way streets up to our loading dock, and I begin loading this food into the trunk of my car. Remember, it's perishable food, so I have to move as quickly as possible. So I'm blasting the AC while I'm frantically trying to get these sandwiches in, and I finally do, and I slam the trunk, and I'm like, phew, thank God, this is amazing food. Of course there's going to be nonprofits that want it. And so then I proceed to call 30 plus nonprofits in Berkeley, in Oakland, even as far as Richmond. I'm like, "Hey, I have this amazing food. Could you use it? Hey, I have 500 gourmet sandwiches. Do you need it?" I felt like my grandmother. "Hey, please, somebody take this food. You're so skinny. Take it. Eat it. Somebody." In fact, a third of them didn't answer the phone. A third of them said, "No, we're okay. We don't need any more food." And then the last third are like, "Actually, you know what? We could use 10 sandwiches or 15 sandwiches." Great. Now I have 485 sandwiches. And I'm pulled over to the side of the road, so frustrated. Like, why is it so hard to do a good thing? Why is it so hard to do the right thing? And where are all the hungry people at when I actually have incredible food to give them? And it was that frustration that was essentially the birth of my inspiration. I thought, how much more effective, how much more efficient this whole process would be if those who have food could say, "Hey, we have food," and those in need of food could say, "Hey, we could use that food." We match these two people, clear the marketplace, and solve a real problem for both of them. So essentially a Match.com for sandwiches. And that's what we went off to build. And we started by figuring out what is it that the nonprofits really need. And so nonprofits create profiles. They'll tell us who they are, what they're looking for. They just don't lie to us about how many times they go to the gym. They'll say, "This is the kind of food we can accept, prepared, packaged, ready to go, or produce, meat, dairy, whatever it is, the number of people they feed, what days and times they need that food." All of this information is stored and can be updated as needed, and it's stored in our virtual marketplace. So how does it work for businesses? Well, our customers are the food donors, and they are food businesses, so like Whole Foods or a catering company, and also businesses with food, so hospitals, universities, or corporate cafeterias. And so when they have excess food left over, they will launch the Copy app. They'll tell us how much food they have, when do they need it picked up by. And this information is then sent to our virtual marketplace, which triggers our algorithm. And our algorithm will then match this exact amount and type of food to the nonprofit or nonprofits that could use it at that day, that time, that quantity of food. It'll dispatch a driver to go pick up the food and then take it directly to the nonprofit. The nonprofit confirms that they received that food by signing a tax deduction receipt that's automated, digitized, stored into the cloud so that the business gets to take the financial incentive of donating food still. And they'll also send back photos and testimonials of the people that were fed. So you get to see the impact that you made by spending less than 2 minutes of your time going Copia. And Copia is not a nonprofit. We're a for-profit company that has built proprietary technology to solve both hunger and food waste at scale. And we partner with innovative businesses across all industries. So from universities like UC Berkeley, healthcare facilities, institutions like UCSF or Stanford Hospital, to massive companies like Compass Group and Cisco. So let me share a few quick success stories. Copia went to Hollywood to partner with all of the Academy Awards events, Women in Film, Vanity Fair, Slumdog Millionaire superstar Frida Pinto, to ensure that for the first time ever, no food went to waste during Oscars weekend. And one of the most exclusive events that's held during Oscars weekend is called the Post-Oscars Vanity Fair Party. And it's one of the most exclusive events you could get into, attended by the likes of Meryl Streep and Matt Damon and Emma Stone. And this year, it was catered by Chef Thomas Keller, a Michelin star restaurateur from French Laundry. Um, he catered all of this amazing bougie food, and the next day we took all of this food across town to IRC, so International Rescue Committee, where we fed over 40 Syrian and Iranian refugees who had just come to America. So Chef Thomas Keller's Michelin star food is their first group meal in America. I was joking that when immigrants come to America, they think they're going to eat like kings and queens. We wanted to make sure they could at least eat like Matt Damon. Fast forward to the Super Bowl, where we recovered over 14 tons of food. And 14 tons of food is like 4 16-foot refrigerated trucks filled from top to bottom, not with pizza, not with popcorn, but filet mignon, lobster rolls, $300 cheeses, pulled pork sandwiches. Not all my jam, but incredible food for the 23,000 people that we fed that weekend. And I'm so proud to share that Copia has recovered over 1 million pounds of food, and we've diverted this high quality food from landfills, while we've also provided over $11 million worth of savings to nonprofits as well as our businesses. And I'm so proud to share that this year, Copia is going to feed over 2 million people with incredible food that would have otherwise been wasted. 2 million people is like filling up an NFL stadium 24 times over. If you come to America, some of the football games these days can't fill up one NFL stadium. And we can fill up 24. This is the EPA food recovery hierarchy, and what it says is that the most preferred outcomes for your excess food is 1, to not have any. Well, we know that some food waste is always inevitable, and so then the next best thing you could do is to feed hungry people with it. The least preferred outcomes is what 90% of businesses are currently doing, and that's throwing it into the trash or composting it. So as I mentioned earlier, Copia is not a nonprofit. We're a for-profit company that has built proprietary technology to solve both hunger and food waste at scale. And so our customers are the food donors, so the businesses with food and then the food businesses. And we're doing a lot more than just recovering their food, so from picking it up from point A to taking it to point B. We're also providing these businesses with data and analytics that helps them understand, why is this waste happening? Is it Indian food? Is it Chinese food? Is it on Mondays? Is it on Fridays? Is it raining outside so employees didn't want to come to work? Fans didn't want to come to a game? Like, why is this waste happening? We also provide them the documentation that they need to get enhanced tax savings. So businesses can save tens of thousands to tens of millions of dollars through these food donations. Because even though we're a for-profit, the food goes to the nonprofit and we don't charge them. And so that's still a very significant tax saving. We also help these businesses dramatically reduce their carbon footprint. Food waste is the 3rd largest emitter of methane. So behind US and China, food waste is the largest emitter of methane. And so we help these businesses dramatically reduce the amount of methane that's emitted. And we also provide businesses with photos and testimonials of the people that were fed. So they get to see the impact that they made, and they get to leverage that to engage that with their employees, with their stakeholders, with the community. Saving food, saving money, saving the environment, and of course, feeding the hungry. Everybody wins. Our technology and onboarding process makes ending hunger and reducing food waste easier, faster, and for the first time ever, possible. The scalability of our technology was put to the test this past October, when Copia was the first responder to the devastating North Bay fires. Before FEMA, Salvation Army, American Red Cross could even mobilize, Copia was on the ground providing food for tens of thousands of fire evacuees, as well as 500 members of our National Guard and our first responders. Through our partnership with SF Fights Fire, we were able to provide over 34,000 meals in the first 2 weeks of the fire. What responding to this natural disaster showed me was that the potential for Copia is so much more than just redistributing food. Food, after all, is the most perishable and difficult thing to move. And now that we can do that, we could use the same type of algorithm, the same logistics infrastructure that we've built to help redistribute medicine, medical supplies, books, clothing, anything. because it's not a lack of any of these resources. It's just an ineffective distribution of those resources. Let me close with this. So many before us, perhaps even a few in this room, have said eradicating hunger, reducing food waste. Come on, Komal, that's impossible. To which I now respond with the words of the late and great Muhammad Ali. Impossible is just a big word thrown around by small men who prefer to live in a world as it is, instead of using the power they have to challenge it, change it, improve it. Impossible is not a fact. It's an opinion. Impossible is temporary. Impossible is nothing. The impossible does not exist, and it can no longer exist. We cannot stand for a world where we waste 3 times more food than there are mouths to feed. So I invite you to join me. Let's use our collective resources, our companies, our time, our capabilities to move humanitarianism forward. One girl with a simple idea can make a world of a difference. But a group of people banded together can rid the world of an unnecessary, insolvable problem. The world's dumbest problem. Thank you.